Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Always good to speak to you. So what does the Basic Education Minister do then after these submissions from the unions who say there's no other choice really for the safety of pupils and teachers alike but to close schools until the worst of COVID-19 has come and gone?
Well, we'll have to wait for the outcome of the cabinet meeting to know what it is that she's going to say. But it is true that it is a complex situation and that the rate of infection across the country is unequal and the levels of readiness across the country are unequal. That not all schools have the necessary resources nor the management systems in place to make schools safe. What everyone agrees on is that schools must be safe. The second thing that's uncertain, and we hope that Cabinet will give us as the country guidance very soon, is the fact that the rates of infection across the country are very different. If we look at the death rates, it's Gauteng, Eastern Cape and Western Cape, where we're seeing high figures, where we're seeing spiking and hotspots. But there's other provinces such as Northwest, Free State, Northern Cape, Limpopo, where the levels of infection are quite low. So my view is that we should stop looking for a definitive answer that says all schools should be open and all schools should be closed. I think we need to be guided by the individual circumstances of the readiness of the school and the levels of community transmission. And that is only possible if we understand that the principle of fairness and justice means that there should not be prejudice to schools which cannot open, which means that the way we see school has to change. Instead of learners going to school with many people thinking that they're there to pass or fail, learners need to go to school for schools to be centers of care and support, not a sense of passing or failing the academic year, but looking at a cap period over several years.
Prof, we're battling somewhat with our Skype connection with you, but I'd like us to persevere just a while longer. I'll let you know if it freezes again. But just on what you were saying, we know that the Basic Education Department has already looked at redrawing the academic year, with some of it likely to continue into 2021. But under what you're proposing, where, for example, hotspots would possibly shut down then as we brace for the peak, and provinces like the Free State, the Northern Cape and the Northwest, where we don't have as much infection, would perhaps continue with learning there. What would that mean for the drawing of the timetable, the curriculum, as it were?
Okay, so that's a critical point. The point about timetabling and the curriculum go hand in hand, because timetabling means that you need to have enough space to teach all of the learners with physical distancing. And the guidance that's been given to schools already is that when schools open, they cannot necessarily have all the learners at school at the same time. So we've got to rethink what schooling is to be a combination of learning at school and learning at home. Now that has implications for what can be covered of the curriculum, which is why we need to be able to understand that catching up what should have been learnt is a 2-year project. It can't be crammed into children at this stage. Children are anxious. They've been away from school. They've been isolated. Many of them are fearful. So schools have to be places where we support learners, where we make sure that they get nutrition. But fundamentally, the school has to be safe. And that depends on how the school is managing its resources, what resources have been received, and what's the level of transmission in the area. We've all, parents, teachers, communities, got to adopt an approach to what education is, that it's about care and support of learners, maximizing learning opportunities, and not business as usual.
And Prof, I was speaking to one of the teacher unions a few days ago, last week in fact, and our guest was saying to us the other concern they have beyond just the physical safety of pupils and staff is about the stop-start pattern in which schooling is continuing, because some schools do have to shut down when an infection is found on the premises for decontamination and that sort of thing. What impact does that sort of approach have on the quality of learning that goes on?
So the readiness of schools to effectively manage opening and closing and opening again and closing is a new set of management tools that all school managers have to learn, because this epidemic is going to be with us for a while. Now, that creates uncertainty at a time when many people are fearful because of COVID. What I think is important for people to not be fearful and to have confidence is to know that what the systems that are being put into place in each school are reliable, that they reinforce the basics that we've all come to understand: physical distancing, wearing of masks, hand washing, and making sure that those who believe themselves to be infected do not attend school while they get tested. That is part not only of schooling, but of everything that we do as communities, in our faith communities, at different workplaces, is that we've all got to get used to being ready to open and close, and the insecurity that comes with that, whilst protecting self and protecting others.
Would you be in favour, Prof, as has been suggested over the weekend, of setting up camps or isolation bubbles for grades 7 and 12, where they all go with their educators and complete whatever work is left there until it's safe to come back into their immediate communities?
It's a debate that I'm very interested in, because I know that there are several provinces who believe that that's the correct approach. I think that they are arguing that it gives a controlled environment where there's a bubble of people who are not being exposed to external introduction and inoculation with the virus. I always want to be very deeply assured that learners who are away from their parents and under the supervision of other adults are going to be really effectively supported emotionally and going to be properly supervised. These are discussions that must happen, but the discussions need to happen at local level, at community level, at district level, with parents stepping up to say, this is also my responsibility, how can I help? With leadership in, for example, faith communities stepping up and saying, how can we help? Mm-hmm. Because these are complex decisions. If they are taken at local level and people are saying, this will work for us, we are confident that this is going to be a safe place, not only in terms of COVID protocols, but also in terms of care of adolescents.